How do you resolve Docker container port conflicts? Imagine trying to run to different applications on your computer that both want to use the same door. That's what happens when two Docker containers try to use the same network port. It can cause errors and make your containers inaccessible. So, how do you fix this? Let's break it down. When you run a Docker container, you can map its internal ports to your computer's ports. For example, if your app inside the container listens on port 8080, you can tell Docker to connect that to port 8081 on your machine. If you try to map to a port that's already in use, Docker will give you an error. To avoid this, you can choose a different port on your host machine. Just use the P option with a different host port, like Docker run 8081, 8080 my app. This way, your container still listens on port 8080 internally, but your computer uses port 8081 to connect. Another way is to let Docker pick a free port automatically. Instead of specifying the host port, just use P with uppercase P. Docker will assign a random high-numbered port on your machine. You can check which port it used by running Docker PS. This method is handy when you don't care which port is used, as long as it works. Sometimes you need to see what's occupying a port. You can use tools like LSOF ITCP, 8080 or netstat toln to find out which process is using a specific port. If it's another container, you might want to stop it or change its port. If it's a different application, you can reconfigure it or shut it down to free up the port. Running containers with the host mode shares your computer's network directly. This can cause conflicts because the container uses the same ports as your host system. To avoid this, it's better to use the default bridge network or create custom networks with Docker Compose. These isolate container ports and make managing conflicts easier. If you're working in a cloud environment like Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud, container orchestration tools such as Kubernetes or Elastic Container Service handle port assignments for you. They automatically allocate ports and manage service discovery, reducing manual conflicts. Still, it's good practice to keep track of your port mappings and avoid overlaps. If your containerized app listens on port 8080 but your host port 8080 is busy, just map it to a different port like 8082 with Docker run P8082, 8080 my app. Or use Docker run P to let Docker choose a free port. After running, check with Docker PS to see which port was assigned. Troubleshooting port conflicts involves checking which process is using the port. Use LSOF ITCP, 8080 or netstat toln to find out. If needed, stop or reconfigure the conflicting process. Sometimes, restarting Docker can clear up any stuck port reservations. By applying these strategies, you can keep your Docker containers running smoothly without port conflicts. Managing ports effectively helps ensure your applications stay accessible and your environment remains organized.